Hi, and welcome to Child Care Wear Minnesota's legislative update for action through Friday, February 28th. As usual, I will give you a brief update on the bills that were heard last week or some of the other issues and presentations that were made related to childcare and early childhood. But a reminder, you can find all of the bills that have been introduced on our bill tracker posted at the same website as these updates. And again, encourage you to let us know if there are bills that you see that you think we should be following. So let's get right to activity from last week. First of all, there were two presentations. For the Fraud Prevention and Oversight Committee received a presentation by the Inspector General, some overview of their work, and a lot of questions about the intersection of child care assistance and licensing, given some of the latest news articles. There was also a presentation in the Senate Education Policy Committee on the P20 Education Partnership, which does focus all the way from pre-K to age 20. And so a little bit about their work was provided. And finally, in the House Capital Investment Committee, there was a presentation by the Department of Children, Youth, and Families on the governor's bonding bill. His recommendation is $2.7 million for additional child care facilities and also a proposal to lower the level of the match needed at the community level that applies for bonding funds, trying to make that more accessible. So those were the presentations last week. As far as bills, in the House Workforce Committee, House File 606, Representative Reimer, and House File 1376, Representative Johnson. These are very similar bills, but slightly different payment structures. They both go to fund the Father Project. And this was a set of bills that were also heard. Their companions were heard a couple of weeks ago in the Senate. And so in both the House now and the Senate, they have been laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. In the Children and Families Committee last week, there were two bills heard. First of all, House File 1247, Representative Nadeau. This is a companion to a bill in the Senate from Senator Hoffman. And this is the bill that would basically make permanent something that is currently in statute, but due to sunset, and that is to allow an aide to be in charge of a classroom without a teacher, as long as they meet certain criteria for training and length of service, and that is no more than 25% of the center's day. So this was passed and moved to the general register, and that is the course that it took in the Senate as well. So this bill, House File 1247, and its companion will receive floor votes. Finally, House File 628, introduced by Representative Torkelson, received quite a lengthy hearing in the same committee, the House Children and Youth and Families Committee. This, by the author's own admission, was a bill to start conversations, so understanding that it will probably not stay in the form it is currently in, but it does make some fairly sweeping changes to existing child care rule, including getting rid of all of the distinctions between teachers, assistant teachers, aides, etc., strengthening in some ways the requirements for a center director, but lowering some of the requirements for the rest of the staff in the center. The author did mention and understand that some of the work that's going on right now with the regulation modernization effort will play into this, and that in some ways, again, this was a way to start the conversation. So it was laid over for possible inclusion, but most likely we'll go through some changes based on many of the questions that were asked. That's it for bills last week or presentations of note to us. I will say that for the upcoming week, there are another 5 bills, it appears right now, scheduled for hearings related to our work. You'll hear about those next week. And one presentation that may interest many of you is, in fact, the department coming to talk about their process, the latest update on the licensing regulation modernization effort. So that is on Wednesday in the Children and Families Committee. I will note, as I always do, disclaimer, things can change. So this is as of Friday, February 28th, goodness. And this would be up next Wednesday, let's see, that would be March 5th. So probably the biggest news for this coming week is that the forecast, the budget, the long-awaited budget forecast is slated to be released on March 6th. As you can imagine, and I've noted before, lots of uncertainty around certainly the federal level funds. So while this will give us a little bit more complete picture of what's happening with Minnesota, tax revenues, for instance, and business revenues, it still will be, of course, a bit of a crystal ball. It's always a bit of a crystal ball. This will be a really big crystal ball this year. But as I've mentioned, that does tend to kick off a faster process of starting to hear budget bills. No word yet on when the deadlines will be. So generally what we'll see relatively soon is that the House and the Senate will agree on either together or sometimes separately deadlines as to when certain bills have to clear each of the committee levels. This is a way to winnow down what are hundreds and even thousands of bills sometimes. So things get a little more serious after the budget forecast. I think that is it for this week. We still see a steady stream of new bills being introduced. So once again, take a peek at the bill tracker. And a lot of the themes I reported on last week continue to be the same. I would say another thing that is emerging is different approaches to using the tax code, things like tax credits or tax exemptions to try to put more money into our childcare community as sort of a secondary approach to just a straightforward budget, money in the budget. So we'll see where those go. And I will certainly update you on any or all of those next week. We'll see you then. Thanks.